Hello again, everyone. We are here today to discuss the sequel to the pretty successful Spider-Man game released in the year 2000. I'm pretty sure it was successful.
It was.
It did well critically, it did well financially, so let's do a sequel. So we have a sequel that honestly I don't really hear a lot of people talking about, which is Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro. The title already bugs me because the first one at least had some mystery to who the villain was. Massive air quotes there. This one,
the first cutscene.
Yeah, but this one spoils it in the fucking title. But anyway, this one is exclusive to the PlayStation 1.
That might be why no one talks about it.
But it was also one of those games that was released after the PS2 came out. Okay. Sure.
It was exclusive to a console that was being phased out. Huh, I wonder why nobody talks about it.
Gee, I wonder what happened there. But this game takes place, what, about a year after the first one?
I guess.
And to be 100% honest with you guys right off the bat, I don't remember this plot anywhere near as well as the first game.
Yeah, like the first game's plot was basic, but at least it had some interesting ideas to it. This one is just like it's like an episode of the animated series level basic.
Electro grabs a thing.
Animated series.
Like, yeah, Electro gets a thing. Stop Electro. That's almost the entire plot.
Yeah, Shocker, Sandman, Hammerhead, Beetle, they're all there, but they don't...
Beetle's literally just there.
Beetle's in 2 cutscenes. You don't even fight him, and I was disappointed with that.
This barely ties back into the first game. Like what?
Seriously, none of the other supervillains had a reason to be here.
They really didn't. Why was Hammerhead here?
I know, it says that he was working with Electro, but they never explained why.
Like, remind me, does anything from the first game come back here?
No, like not even Venom or Black Cat don't even come back.
Yeah, because Beast is there instead.
Yeah, that was random. When I started up the game, I was expecting Black Cat to come down and talk to me. I was like, oh, that's not even close to who that is.
Why was Beast there?
I mean, cool, I like Beast, but why was he here?
I mean, it's cool showing other characters.
Yeah. Everybody.
I think in a training mode, I think Jean Grey and Professor Xavier are in there too.
Well, Rogue is in the character model database in the extras menu, so I think it's Rogue.
Okay. Oh, I knew it was another X-Men. I just couldn't remember.
Yeah, Rogue and Xavier had their models in that character viewer.
How is Wolverine not there?
That is a good question.
But regardless, Lizard's in there too. Because
he's a boss.
But like, he doesn't really have any story significance. He's just there.
Usually Lizard doesn't.
That's true.
That's usually... Lizard's kind of just a thing that happens. He's usually not a part of a grand plot unless he is the grand plot.
Yeah, like Amazing Spider-Man. But we'll talk about that another day. The game, not the movie.
Yeah.
But the story didn't sit with me. Like, I didn't care.
Yeah, there wasn't any, like, new original, like, thing like Monster Ock or, Venom and Carnage and Ock being in the first one. Then you have...
Like, you had a lot of the heavy hitter characters were in the first game. And realistically, and I know why they didn't do this. Green Goblin really should have been the villain of the sequel.
Yeah, but
the next game,
yeah,
We'll talk about that next time. I mean, the final boss, Hyper Electro, I think that's kind of cool. Like, having original final bosses in these games is always kind of neat.
But not as memorable as Monster Arc.
Not even close. Well, Monster Arc haunts me to this day.
I literally sat down and just, for the fun of it, replayed that game the day after I played this game for the first time, just to have a direct comparison between the two. Dude, that final segment being chased by Monster Arc still intense.
Whereas the Battle of Hyper Electro is so anticlimactic.
It's anticlimactic and it's really jank. Like,
It is!
Yeah.
But anyway, basically, Spider-Man beats Electro. They get arrested. And that's that. Like, whoop-de-doo. Like, you don't feel like the world's in peril like you did in the first game with the symbiote invasion. This is just Electro stole a device. Stop him. Okay. Just Spider-Man being Spider-Man. Even the plot of the next game feels a lot more grandiose than this, and that's taking the plot of a movie.
Yeah, and adding crap on top of it.
Adding crap that makes no sense on top of it, yeah.
Yeah.
But
as the par for most of those movie games.
We'll talk about that next time. But in terms of the gameplay, Spider-Man controls almost 1-to-1 exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
outside
before
a model change, because his model's a little bit more detailed.
But the graphics do actually look quite a bit better in this one.
They look more on par with the Dreamcast PC version of the first game.
Yeah, they do. And like he actually has the if you only played the PS1 version, he actually has the spider lines down his suit now.
And he's got the webbing under the arms, which is one of my favorite aesthetic pieces of his costume.
See, I thought that was weird.
What?
I'm different. I've never been a fan of the webbing under his arms.
It's probably because my fandom for Spider-Man is very heavily rooted in the original Steve Ditko era, where he had the huge webs under the arms. And I've just grown to love that look.
Oh, see, my first Spider-Man was a '90s cartoon.
Oh, yeah, so was mine, but
I just think for me, I respect the webbing because that's how he started. Mm-hmm. I think he looks cooler without it. That's just me. That's like, do you like bone claws or do you like metal claws? Take your pick.
I mean, Wolverine with the bone claws is probably a little bit more metal.
A little bit. Oh, yeah. I think the one thing they changed control-wise is that he could shoot impact webbing in the air now.
Which is, I mean, given what some of the stuff you have to do in this game, I don't know if some of those missions were beatable without it being usable in the air.
Like, yeah, speaking of that, so we were talking about this before call. Spider-Man is a little jank. Let's just call a spade a spade. It's a PS1 game.
Yeah, the first ones we're talking about. The first one. Yeah.
Well, but the level design, I had a mind fart there for a second. The level design was built around his control scheme. This one, let's just open up the levels and not change how he controls. Okay.
Yeah. Because, like the first game had no free range camera. The only camera at real movement you had was when you hold down, what was it, L1? You gain access to the aim mode. Yeah, and this game brings that back. But that's the only real like free range camera you have, and you can't move while using it. Spider-Man's camera snaps behind him when he starts moving in a certain direction. And in the first game, like
It's
you
fine.
said, yeah, it works because a lot of the levels are horizontal. You don't have to worry about looking up and down because everything's in front of you. In this game, they open the levels up to where a lot of the levels are very sandboxy. And the lack of a free range camera makes navigating some of these levels a pain.
And on top of all that, the stuff they make you do in some of these levels is obnoxious.
God. The first time I got to that airplane,
I was just about to mention that. Oh my god.
I got there, and then the mission instantly started and it crashed into a couple of barrels. Like, what the heck is going on?
Honestly, like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, I had to actually hop online and look at a YouTube video on how to do it. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, but how would they expect you to figure that out in such a short amount of time? Because the mission gives you no time to like settle in.
No, it doesn't. It's like, hey, good luck.
And then when you do know what to do, your window for error is so small. Like, I knew exactly what to do after like the third attempt because I saw the YouTube video. It took me like 5-6 more attempts to finally get it right.
So, if a game is difficult, it's not the issue. Like,
yeah.
like I could deal with a difficult game.
Yeah, the first game was tough, but it felt fair tough.
But when you want a tough game, you have the mixing structure built to where the game is to where you're losing because you haven't gotten good at the game yet. Whereas this game feels like you're losing because the game is telling you to go screw yourself.
Oh yeah. Like, jump ahead a little bit to the lizard fight. Well, shoot, that entire segment when you're going through that laboratory getting to the lizard fight, I thought that you couldn't get anything worse than, well, at least in the first game, the subway section, the sewer section leading up to the second Venom fight. Those levels weren't bad; they were just bland.
They were boring, but you know.
But these levels in that laboratory, when you're trying to get to Lizard, are just bad.
They are bad.
And then you get to the Lizard fight, and there's a soft lock condition.
I forgot all about that.
Because the mission starts, and you have to run over to a computer and create the antidote. And when you create the antidote, it drops a unique web cartridge exclusive to the fight where you shoot at Lizard and it weakens him enough for you to damage him. But you're on a secret time limit that the game doesn't tell you about. If Lizard breaks into the room before you complete it, you can't even go back to attempt to finish the cure and you're just soft locked. You have to restart the whole mission.
You just lose. You're done, yeah.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Like, if that was like, hey, there's a time limit, and if he breaks into the room, you just die, that would be better than soft locking your game.
Yeah, no, because I was running around the room for like 2 minutes trying to figure out where the heck's the cure. And then my brother walked in and he was like, oh, you didn't finish the cure in time. I'm like, what do you mean in time?
It wouldn't even be that bad if there was a time limit and you could see it. Yeah. No.
And honestly, that's another problem I have with this game, is that this game is a lot more puzzle-based in everything like this, but the game does a very poor job of explaining to you how to solve these puzzles.
It really does. Like, half the game is just sitting there like, what?
Yeah, like I can't believe I haven't had to use like a video guide to figure out stuff in a long time because I'm usually pretty aware of stuff, but this game was just so vague on everything.
And it's a Spider-Man game.
Yeah, and the first game had its fair share of puzzles too, but they weren't, overly taxing. They maybe required you to do a little bit of thinking, but they weren't like, you sit here and look at the screen for 15 minutes and you wonder what the heck is going on.
And that's the thing. Like, that's what I think the whole game. I'm like, why am I playing this? What is going on here? Yeah. Even when I was a kid, a lot of kids have that new game bias. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, this one's new, so it's better by default. When I was playing this as a kid, I was like, this isn't as good as the first one. Like 9-year-old me thought that.
And we were talking about this before we started recording this, and it honestly, it's very obvious why. When I opened the game case to get the disc out, the back of the instruction manual had an ad for the first Raimi movie game. So this game feels like it was rushed out just to give the game a sequel, and it didn't have any of the improvements because those improvements went to the first Raimi movie game, which in theory is the third game in the series when it comes to like gameplay mechanic
Yeah,
wise.
because this is a gameplay mechanic. That is this game's engine, but
Yeah.
done better.
But yeah, because you can see some of that open world sandbox, more horizontal level design in this game, but the first Raimi movie game, when we get to it, has mechanics and stuff that works with that more open-ended level design.
This just doesn't. This feels
Yeah,
like they rushed out a product because the first game did so well they were
yeah,
contractually obligated to make a sequel.
yeah. It
And
really does feel like that if the first Raimi movie game or the first Raimi movie didn't happen or was like another year away, this would have been a PS2 game.
probably,
And
yeah.
it would have looked like the first Raimi movie game probably.
But that's unfortunately not what happened.
Yeah,
We
that's
got
not what happened.
this is possibly one of the most underwhelming sequels I've ever played, and that might be a stretch because it's not a terrible game or anything, but it's not great either.
No.
Um,
It's like they took the worst parts of the first game and just kind of over exaggerated them.
and to be honest with you, compared to the first game, this roster of villains is lame.
I mean, as someone
Like,
who's like a fan of the old era Ditko villains, it's nice to see some of his older villains play a more prominent role, but they're also not like headliners for a game.
like in the first game, you had Doctor Octopus, Venom, Carnage, Scorpion, Rhino,
Yeah.
and this you have Hammerhead. Okay. Sandman, all right. Electro, I guess. Shocker in the same game as Electro. Um,
Yeah.
Lizard. Lizard's cool, but then you have Beetle. Why is Beetle even here?
Dude, I was shocked to see him and I was like, oh man, am I gonna get to fight Beetle later? No.
Nope. Or he's literally in one cutscene and you never see him again.
I was upset about that because I was like, Beetle's cool, but no, he's just nothing.
Oh, and you never see Peter Parker in this game.
Oh yeah, his mask never comes off.
I mean, Peter Parker's a costume you can wear, but
Yeah. It was just
well,
a
that's
model taken from the first game.
they did add more costumes though. Like I think the Phoenix Force is in here now.
The Raimi early concept Alex Ross suit is in here, which is sick.
Yeah, it is. So
And
there's
there is one thing I will compliment this game for when it comes to the costume stuff. We talked about in the first game that each costume had like unique abilities. Well, that's the case in this one. But they added a thing where you can pick a costume and then pick up to 3 abilities that each of the different costumes have and make your own.
yeah, I think 2018 in Some Spider-Man took that concept from this game
Yeah,
because
because if
they do
like
it there too.
the suit power thing where you can
Mm-hmm.
mix and match, yeah.
Yep,
And
yep.
that was nice because I'm like don't like Spider-Man games anymore that have a web meter. So I wanted infinite webbing, but I didn't want to wear the black suit, so I could just equip it to the base suit. That's
Yeah,
cool, and I like that. That's actually some pretty advanced uh, customization for a game of this era.
yeah, because you're right though. Like, because having a web limiter is just not a thing in Spider-Man games anymore.
No,
So when you go back to the older one, it's like, well, fuck, I don't want this.
yeah, and honestly, the web meter thing is arguably worse in the next game.
Oh, jeez.
which is
Yeah,
weird. Which is weird because he's supposed to have bio webbing in that game, and he's not supposed to run out. But it has the worst web meter mechanic.
Oh my god! When you put it that way.
Yeah, I'll get to my complaints with the first Raimi movie game in the next video because I'm not a fan of that game, honestly.
We'll talk about that
Yeah.
later. For sure. But this game specifically, I do think is a downgrade.
Yeah.
And just aside from graphics, if you're comparing it to the PS1 version, which admittedly this does look better than the first game on the PS1, it does. The soundtrack's also not as good.
No, it's not.
I can't even remember any of the tracks in this one.
I mean,
dude.
it doesn't even have the cool remix of the 60s theme in here.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
And that added so much charm to the first game.
Did. And honestly, this game doesn't have like the personality the first one did either.
No, because he doesn't have anybody to interact with most of the time like he did in the first one.
Yeah, because he has no like buddy in this one. Because the first one he had Black Cat for like the first half of the game, and this one,
the second half.
Yeah, and this one he's literally by himself the whole time. I don't think Mary Jane's in this.
She's not.
I don't think. Is anyone relevant in this? Like, I don't think J. Jonah Jameson in this.
No.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the game is lacking a lot.
Like, his whole supporting cast is just gone. So, that stinks. I don't know what they were thinking, like, not having his supporting cast. But...
yeah, this game really does feel like it was made on a budget compared to the first one.
It honestly does. And that you don't hear as many people talk about this game. And it's easy to see why. Because this is lacking a lot of what made the first game so appealing to people. Me included. Because I do like the first one quite a bit more than this.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, even by modern day standards, I think the first one it's considered a classic of its time now.
Whereas you can't say that for the second one.
You can't. It's forgettable.
Honestly. So, as a Spider-Man game, I'm going to give it a 6.
Yeah, it's not a bad game, but man, is it such a downgrade.
But as just a game itself, I'm probably going to give it a 5. Because it just, the gameplay doesn't work with the level design, and it's just tedious, and it's just not fun to play through.
No.
It's not. Like, I played through it in total in my life maybe twice.
Yeah, I literally played these two games back to back, and I only ever really raged at the first game when I got to the Daily Bugle section with the symbiotes because I forgot how hard they hit.
Oh, dude, they hit like tanks.
But in this game, I was raging at every other level.
And like, you don't have like, again, you don't have like those fun enemies. Like, you don't have the symbiotes in here. You just have thugs and then robots sometimes.
It's like the robot, the metal samurai thing. Like, what the freak were those supposed to be?
Dude, I don't know where those came from or why they were there, but they were just there.
It's like, did Electro electrocute the samurai armors to make them living creatures? I don't think that's how that works.
Comic book stuff could just happen. Anyway, next time we meet, we'll be talking about Spider-Man.
Again.
That's all it's called. we're talking about the first game a second time because we don't want to talk about the next. This will be talking about the first movie licensed Spider-Man game. And it'll be interesting because I actually played that before I played this when I was a kid. So,
it was like the first GameCube game I got next to SA2 Battle. I have a lot of thoughts on this game.
We'll save that for next time. Oh boy, because the Raimi games, oh boy. Anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for listening in today. I hope you got some enjoyment out of it. And stay tuned for more. Take care.